Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is Jonas. Report is for March the 3rd, and coming off of the fade. Well, we had a little bit further fade. NBI White still leading, but Magenta took over, and most of this was all just in the last hour or so after the whole bizarre event that took place in the Oval Office with Zelensky, but an indication that European tariffs are about to come. We can see from a DOC standpoint, orange, like we talked about, once it gets to that 7.5, and it was at minus 7.8 the other day, boom, move over, and there you go. You get your bounce back. We were already at fairly extreme from the green level on the DOC down here at minus 24. It was quite a rage. And you can see DOC red still falling, shakeout, not enough to change it yet, but it did improve the extreme histogram. It got back up over the red line. So it could be enough to spark a little bit of a turnaround. And particularly if you have shorts continuing to fight within this. The 50% here is going to be the big battle coming up just under the 6K number. So for all that happened, February pretty much was a net zero from where it opened up to where we finished, just barely, but the range within it. And I think you're going to see more of the same for March. We're going to get some pretty decent volatility within this. NASDAQ wasn't quite as fortunate. It did pull back 50% of its move down below, but obviously suffering more because of the potentials with the tariffs and trade situation. Tech area much more concerning, and so you have a disparity here between the NASDAQ and the S&P, with the extreme here still below the red line and still in that more fade. So a rebound a little bit stronger from the NASDAQ would definitely help drive the S&P over its 50% mark. But that's a pretty big disparity between the two. Kind of a glaring reflection of the separation. Of course, money's piling into treasuries, reducing that yield, and Fed's still nowhere to be found. Nobody knows what they're up to, because you just ended with Biden's last reporting period, and we're going to see what real numbers start coming through going forward, and that'll be quite interesting. See how that plays out. Oil, not horrible, but nothing helpful here. You're still well above where you need to be, which is under the 60 range, and sadly, that's going to keep maybe not the rate of inflation spiking, but it's definitely still going to cause a lingering elevation. You're certainly not looking at any form of deflationary numbers. Of course, the euro suffering big time in that, because they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Unless oil drops off major, still haven't seen a justification for Eurozone, particularly if tariffs are going to start there in April. That's going to be a fun one for them to try and negotiate and deal with. And taking sides between the Zelensky thing, who knows how that's going to play out. So the market's going to be, eyeing that ball real careful as to how that plays out. And gold filling in quite a few positive extremes going all the way back. So helpful from that standpoint, clarity-wise, but still in a negative run at this particular stage so far. So profit-taking within that section. And then Bitcoin in that did make new lows, so it filled in all the way back, through these positive extremes. So that only left the major move there, and was able to bounce back with the strong little upside. You got a brief magenta over yellow at this particular stage, but still a rising NBI white. So the potential is, if you could overcome that, then you've got rising shorts into a situation where buyers are able to fill the void, and that becomes critical. Not such a good bonus here for ETH, continuing to struggle as well. And it's just, part of what we're seeing. There's just, what's the excitement to be in crypto at this particular point? You had the big excitement wave come through, and, nothing happens as fast as they wanted to. And as we pointed out, things are going to take longer than they think. Sort of obvious, but from a momentum standpoint, they're just probably not as thrilled with the speed of things as it goes. So you can see intraday, 50K here moved pretty flat going through. We had NBI white spikes, but then the magenta took over there at the end. You had another NBI white spike, but the magenta never dipped below 33, and it never dipped below yellow at that particular stage, and so that was a short cover rally built right into it and very clean from that, and boom, you just skyrocketed into the close. Positive extreme, so we can expect some fill back to it, but all clean, good. And there it was from an intraday standpoint. So, once the early morning was done, by the time we got to the early afternoon, it was just skyrocket time. And that was helpful for option players who had been overrun by puts, and it just flipped the script on them, which they're happy to see that kind of thing go. And starts out the month kind of an interesting perspective here, and how much they'll be able to keep a momentum is going to probably have a lot to do with what we see in the world event stage, because that's going to start to seem like a much bigger factor. We'll just have to wait and see. We get some real numbers on where things are at economically speaking. Indicators have gone out, so as always, anything relevant, I'll put it on the Skype chat for you. Have a good one. Trade well.